Welcome to the Gourds and Pomegranates podcast, talking common sense for church communications. Here's Hannah and Joe.
Video is a long way down the road to being the preferred content form for audiences to consume. Not only is it long form, but short form vertical video is now something you should not be missing out on.
Yeah, so we've talked quite a lot about video before in general, but how much should we be thinking about vertical video as a church? And specifically, should we be on TikTok?
Yes, I think everyone should be. No, I mean, to be honest, that is up to you, your audiences and your capacity, and really actually how much you feel that you want to be on there. I know that some people do feel comfortable and others sort of are a little bit more hesitant. That's absolutely fine. I think we picked the title. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek because it is the sort of horror question to ask churches when I'm working with them. I'm going like, so we should be on TikTok, shouldn't we? And they're like, no.
It's always the most trending recent social network that you get asked about as well.
Yeah. And that is the thing, people asking, should we be on there? But so we're sort of us saying it, titled it as a bit tongue-in-cheek, but what we're really suggesting is that it really is worth considering and actioning using vertical video on whatever platform you're using. Now, that could be TikTok, that could be YouTube, Instagram, whatever works for you, even Facebook. But
even LinkedIn these days.
Well, exactly. And with the updates to all of them, actually, it's no longer a short sort of 2-second short video. Actually, now many of them offer from 30 seconds to longer, even 10 minutes and more. So it's no longer just a sort of, brief little quick viral thing, but actually they can be very in-depth and very engaging. So we'd like to offer you a few considerations to vertical video to add within your content planning. So the first is understanding that vertical video is changing the game. The reality for a lot of internet users, many are on desktops, but actually the majority of people consume content on their smartphones. So actually making vertical videos is a natural fit to how people are engaging on social media and digital platforms on their phones. Even though it's not that hard to turn your phone, it's just the way that we're preferring to watch videos now. It also has a universal appeal across platforms. So actually, if you're making something for TikTok, you could put it also on Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and as you said, LinkedIn. So it's a very effective piece of content to make quite easily, just the once, and it just requires a little bit of sort of adjusting depending on what platform you're going on.
Yeah, we talked a lot about content repurposing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to make it easier, isn't it? And though we don't want to encourage a sort of short form, brief consumerism of content, but actually making something bite-sized, quick, digestible, really helps with getting people to quickly engage with something. And even if you are, as we said, content repurposing, you're breaking down a sermon into a couple of sort of little quotes, a little sort of few points that you're making, actually perhaps it will spark someone wanting to watch the whole of the sermon because they've seen something that's really brief, but it is 10 minutes into the what I'm sure is a great sort of 20-minute talk.
I mean, I don't think we have to worry too much about turning culture into that short-term consumerism thing. That's where culture is. But we want to be getting the message of the gospel out to people. And if they're not going to automatically sit down and watch a full landscape 20-minute sermon, then show them the best bits and entice them in. Yeah,
exactly. And actually, that's a good point on sort of a good link into the next point of actually understanding the algorithms. And okay, I don't even think you can understand the algorithms. That is a dark art that's very confusing, even for someone who is in it sort of all the time. But I think it's about understanding, yes, that putting up a 25, 45-minute sermon or an hour and a half whole service recording live stream, actually that's not what will get pushed out by those platforms. If you're doing short, snappy stuff, actually that'll get put out to a lot more audiences than the bigger timed content. And actually you'll reach then new people.
Yeah, it's understanding how people find content and they're not often, sometimes, but they're not often going out and looking for your church and looking for your service. Now, this is very different to your internal audience who want to catch up on a Sunday they missed, and they will find it and they will watch it. This is people who you can have discover your content because they will open up TikTok and start scrolling. Yep. Or they will open up YouTube and see what it's suggesting. It's what I do. I very rarely open up YouTube and search for something specific to watch. I've got my subscriptions and I've got suggestions, and that's what I watch.
And with the shorts, it's very quickly adjusting to the types of things you watch. So I watch 1 or 2 things about gardening, and suddenly all of the shorts that I'm now scrolling through are about, things to put in your garden this coming summer. So they do really quickly pick up on the types of content that you're watching. Yeah. So what type of content could we be creating? Obviously, as we said already, content repurposing from your sermon. So literally just do short clips of things that have already been preached. You really don't have to think about actually creating it because it's already being made. You could also create devotionals, so quick daily readings that provide a bit of spiritual encouragement and reflection. You could get them from something like YouVersion, or if you've already got sort of devotional books that you work through, perhaps something that your church is working on together, just create them that can be very informal and very kind of like authentic, but actually it's a great way of just building something quickly. You could also highlight events or activities or projects. So if you've got particular community projects or outreach initiatives, being able to highlight that's going on. If you've got upcoming events or conference or special summer gatherings or something, again, have content from last year, but be able to sort of create clips that sort of highlight that this is coming up. We'd love you to join us.
Yeah, and not just promoting upcoming events, but reflecting on recent ones as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great way of building a bit of a buzz and celebrating those people who have probably volunteered and spent a lot of time and effort to attend and support and work at these events. Also doing things like testimonials can be a great way, the short personal stories of transformation or answered prayer that really help to show the people within the church, but also it sort of gives those people an opportunity to share when perhaps they don't feel comfortable sharing it in they don't want to talk in front of people, but they just want to talk
that much more informal. Yeah. And we've talked about the power of stories before as well, haven't we?
Yeah. So, and I think that's one that we don't do enough of really within churches. Behind the scenes is also a really great thing. So it's a great way to build connection and trust by showing the sort of the people that make up the church, whether that's preparation for events, volunteers, pastoral insights. It's really, interesting to know, what does a minister do throughout the week when, clearly they don't do anything other than, the 30-minute sermon on a Sunday. But actually it's just a great way of showing sort of who makes up the church from an administrative point, but just sort of, these are the people that sort of run the church. Also, educational snippets can be quite good, having sort of common faith questions. If you keep it under a minute or something, you could be asked questions like, what is grace, or why do Christians pray, or sort of what does this mean, sort of a bit of the Christianese that we have. And it could be a great way of educating not just new audiences, but actually people within your church.
Yeah. So all of these are really different types of content that some will take a little bit more effort to produce. Some of them, we've already filmed it. It's just a case of sort of re-clipping it up. And actually there are amazing tools that can do that. But they're all different ways of engaging with people, re-engaging people who know you a little bit, potentially engaging people who you've never met before, but just getting them to know a little bit about you and ultimately a little bit more about Jesus.
So we've just given some suggestions of what type of content to make. Might it be helpful to have a think about actually the platforms themselves? So if we think first about Instagram Reels, it's a great way to reach to existing communities. I think other than Facebook, Instagram is probably the other platform that a lot of churches have and still use, though I would say that it's not really used to its full potential from a more visual point. But it's a great way to amplify content because Reels are preferred. Again, the platforms are favouring video content. So if you're making lots of Reels, that content does get shared out a lot more. Generally speaking, it gets shared out a lot more than just static image-based content. Obviously, there's no guarantee that it will make you viral, but it is a great way of just helping to reach more people.
Yeah.
Also, it can be a fantastic way to offer creative storytelling, using Reels to do the graphical content rather than just having a Bible verse as one static image, but actually you could create a bit of sort of dynamic movement within it, or for event promotions. It can be just a great way of just helping to engage with the content that you already are having to make. And obviously it does depend on the size of your phone as to how easy it is, because you have to make Reels on your phone if you're making them within the app. It's all very confusing, like not actually being able to it's so much easier being able to show it. But it is a bit of a faff, but actually I found that over the last 6 months to a year, they've done a load of updates. And it's so much easier of being able to edit and zoom in and zoom out and create lots of different things. So it's quite a intuitive and fun little space to make content. You then also got YouTube Shorts. I mean, generally that's reaching a lot of people because YouTube is probably the most.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most used sites on the web.
Yeah.
And I mean, we put shorts out for my other podcast, and we're not doing a huge amount of promotion on them. And I'd say we get like a minimum of 200 views on every short.
Oh, that's great.
And some of them will be in the thousands. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that converts into subscribers or watching full episodes. Mm-mm. A lot of that will be people who just see it and scroll on. But that's still 500 people who wouldn't have seen that content at all otherwise. Yeah. And that's gold dust to a church.
Yeah. And if it's, as we said already, that if they are watching it, if that's 200, 500, 1,000 people happen to watch something, they're likely then to possibly be suggested to watch another thing that you create if you're making
certainly
it
if they
frequently.
watch more than a few seconds of it and engage with it. And yeah.
It's also really good as well, YouTube, because it is one of the biggest platforms used. It's also got probably the widest demographic, I think, of a lot of younger people, but also older audiences. So actually it's a great way of making a non-demographic specific type of content. It's great for either educational or inspirational content. Yeah.
And also having the direct link to a longer video, if it does relate to it, is a really key thing, that people could actually just with one tap go to the full video. Yeah.
And probably, though I can't say for sure, I think it as well is slightly better in sharing content that is a bit more evergreen. So it's not, obviously as a lot of it is topical, but actually some of it can be things that have been made months in the past. So actually it's a great way of putting out stuff if you're wanting to create sort of a series of short form content, or you're literally just chopping up lots of sermon clips. It can be a great way of putting something out there that is not state specific.
And that goes for things that you're making now that people might still be viewing in a couple of years, but it also is worth saying, think about the massive library of sermon content that you've got, that you might want to chop some of that up and make evergreen clips out of old content as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. So then TikTok, our best friend. No, it's I have to say, I know a lot of people have hesitations and reservations about it.
But then they did about Instagram, and they did about Facebook and MySpace and whatever.
I mean, just be sensible on all of the platforms and stuff. But for me, I really enjoy it. It's a great way of connecting with a lot of different people, and just the creativity that you see within it is fantastic. It is generally probably, I would say, younger audiences, but it really is not exclusively just younger audiences. I see a lot of people of all ages on there, and so it's not to be assumed that it is only just the sort of Gen Zs on it. Actually, it's a lot of different people on there.
And this, again, that's the case with all social networks, that they often tend to be the younger generations that start first and then goes from there.
Yeah, exactly. But what is really fun about it is it's easy to make short, sort of trendy, little funny videos using the trending sounds or challenges or sort of topics. I'm not going to say something now because
that are going around at
date
the moment, and and you can just kind of jump on board, and maybe it's a quick win that you can get some.
Exactly. And and actually it can be just quite fun of sparking ideas of going, oh, well, we did that and that was quite fun. Actually, do you know what we could do? And it just gets people warmed up to the idea of, hey, let's make some content. So yeah, it is a bit more, whereas Instagram, I'd be a bit more conscious about making something that looks really good and is very visually high quality. TikTok is a place where you can be a lot more authentic and test stuff, and it can be a little bit more rough and ready, because actually that's what people love to see.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about sort of vision and aligning with that later, but it is worth saying that some of these might be a little bit less reverent than the content that we're used to making. And there's a line there, and that line will be different for all churches. But if you are delegating this to someone, it's worth having that discussion and deciding where the line is for us, because you don't want to cross the line into sort of trying to seem so authentic that you're actually not being authentic to who you are anymore, and that doesn't help anyone.
I have to say, specifically on TikTok, Bristol Diocese, the Diocese of Bristol, are doing a fantastic job of that. I don't want to say irreverence at all, but they are utilising the sounds and the challenges, and they're getting people involved, and it just makes it seem really fun, so that when something comes up that is a bit more, we're talking about what it means about diocesan synod, or what does a bishop do, and they're interviewing the bishops and stuff. Actually, I want to watch it then, because it's not just really, I know that it's not just going to be boring stuff, or this might be serious, but actually they've made some really funny stuff that is just human, rather than it being flippant, or it's not irreverent at all.
No.
But they don't put that on a lot of the other platforms like Instagram or Facebook and stuff, because that's not where that type of content should be. So if to say they're doing a really good job of understanding the different platforms and really leaning into how do we be church on that platform without, it's not everything is about come to church, go to find a Anglican church in Bristol somewhere, but actually it's about how can we just show that we're human, working and trying to do good work for the kingdom. So I have to say, they're really understanding how TikTok can work. And then another platform that often isn't really thought of for churches, I suppose, but as Josh talked about in episode 44, actually LinkedIn can be a really awesome way of reaching with individuals and even businesses, and we often think, well, no, churches shouldn't be on LinkedIn, but actually there is a real opportunity for us to be on there. And I think that one of the first ones obviously is that it's a place to share stories of faith within the workplace. Not all Christians just work in churches. We are everywhere. And it can be a great way of sort of overlapping, well, how do you share that? Leadership, or just about how Christian values can be a really important way to influence sort of business practice. So it's probably not necessarily thinking about sharing the Sunday service explicitly, but perhaps there are things that say, well, how does Christian living align with what we're doing within work or the business place or any professional life?
Yeah. And it is worth saying that I spend quite a lot of time on LinkedIn for my business, and I am seeing more faith-based content come up on there.
Yeah, there definitely is more.
And especially, LinkedIn are kind of the latest of all these platforms to the vertical video game, but that means they're really pushing it at the moment. So again, it might just be worth considering as an opportunity for a quick win.
So a few little things to remember before, or if you're already in there, then that's great. But a few little things to remember.
Have a reminder.
Yeah, a reminder. It's always good. It is always good because it can be so easy to just copy and paste across all platforms. But do take time, just a few minutes, to think about the sort of specific nuances within each platform. So I've said already, TikTok focuses on trends, whereas Instagram's sort of tends to favour the more aesthetically pleasing content. LinkedIn requires a bit more of a professional tone. So it's really important to make sure that you're adapting the message. It might be the same message or the same meaning within the message, but sort of you're just adapting to make sure that you're fitting for the different platforms and to make it as most effective as possible.
And that will impact on the resources that you have as well. And so
Yeah.
if you're wanting to reach more people through Instagram and that sort of aesthetically pleasing, slightly more produced content, that's going to take more time to produce, and therefore you might be less likely to have Instagram as part of your strategy in a way where actually TikTok might be a little bit more rough and ready and you can just do that right now.
Yeah. Which and it's not to say that everyone should be on every platform, but it is about just going, what have we got and what can we make work, and really where is the heart of it? Because thinking about sort of the metrics over mission of actually, it's not about chasing views and likes and, you know, we have to become viral at the cost and at the expense of creating stuff that is biblically sound and, you know, spiritually nurturing, and that actually it'd be really cool to be viral and get, you know, hundreds of thousands of likes and views and stuff. But a video that is only seen by 100 people, but one person goes, do you know what? Maybe I'll explore what faith might mean to me. That's more important. Yeah. So don't go chasing virality, but actually do think that perhaps actually even within a small numbers, you can still reach people.
Yeah. And that brings us on to thinking about our sort of theological convictions and our vision as a church, and then how does vertical video fit strategically into that, and some really helpful questions to ask. So aligning with your mission is such a key one, knowing why you're doing it and asking how does this content fit into that. You know, it's great to have the potential to get those big numbers, but actually if our primary mission field is our immediate local community, that's not to say we won't do vertical video by any means, but you will probably do it in a different way, where the sort of hashtags that you're using, the sort of locations that you're showing in your videos will be targeted around that. So if other people see it, great, but we want local people to see us and discover us. And that's something where, again, the algorithm can work in your favor, that if people are looking at other local things, then they're more likely to see yours.
Yeah. And it can be really easy to think, oh, well, this is just a social trend. You know, we're not going to do this. We're not going to. It's just silly. We're
going to ignore it and hope that vertical video just goes away.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to. I don't think it's. Videos are here to stay for a long while, I think. But I always think it's the storytelling of our day, and that is how we are consuming entertainment, education, information, which is no different from what Jesus did with how he told parables. Okay, it was a bit more face-to-face, on-site engagement, but he used language, he used stories, he used examples in context, and means that the people he was speaking to, you know, a lot of farming and fishing and agricultural references, because he was speaking to those sorts of people. You know, this is just sort of, I don't want to say it's like an exact modern replication of it, but it's the parables of our day of short form storytelling, and it doesn't mean that we can't tell profound and life changing sort of truths through it, but it is just sort of the mode of communication for the day.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think linking this vertical video not into just our evangelistic strategy, but also discipleship as well, and saying, are there ways that we can use this to better educate and help to grow our congregants? So that's a horrible word, congregants, isn't it? Our
Church
people
family.
that come to the church. Church family is much better. So it doesn't even have to just be sort of what we would traditionally consider social media. So depending on who you talk to, WhatsApp is a social network. I don't like thinking of it as that, but let's face it, that's how most of us are using it these days. And so if you can have a 30-second, 90-second video that maybe you record on your walk to work in the morning, or on your way into church, and then you can share that with people via WhatsApp, And they're much more likely to watch that than they are to if you go and say, oh, can you just go and watch this video on Facebook? Or can you go and share this thing?
Read
it would be
this
great if they
A4
did.
piece.
Yeah, but it helps. Maybe it's even a great way of getting like information and notices out. But if it's devotionals or whatever, it just helps to get people thinking and keep your church sort of aligned and on the same page.
Yeah. So to round up, to get started, really just go for it. Start with what you have. Use a smartphone. The cameras on them now are very good. If you can work with people, that's great, but you can do it on your own with a smartphone, and there are plenty of free editing apps like CapCut, Canva. The sort of editing functions within many of the apps themselves are absolutely great. So you really don't have to sort of buy any equipment to get started. Have a plan, try plan and batch creating content, find a couple of examples that you really like and just go, right, this morning I'm just going to try and create, 5 reels that we can share out. And it can be helpful to have them planned out and scripted, but doing it all at once can just be helpful of sort of, I don't know, feeling camera ready and kind of like getting in the vibe for it.
Yeah. And then using automated tools like I alluded to earlier. So if you are content repurposing, if you are taking that sermon, however long it is, there are tools like CapCut, like Opus Clip, where you can literally drop in the YouTube URL or you can upload the video and it will spit out loads of vertical videos, and you can choose which ones are best, or you can just post all of them and kind of go for it. That, especially with YouTube, seems to be the strategy of just kind of throw it all and see what sticks a lot of the time. But it will automatically put captions, it will clip it down, and it will try and choose what it thinks are going to be the most engaging bits. It will even give it a title for you, so you can download it and then upload it to the platform that you want to use.
And also having these, and especially if you're doing it in a more trial sort of, we're just going to see how this goes, we're not being super stressed about it, can be a great way to engage with the younger people within your church family and sort of actually empowering them to get involved in content creation, in communications, and just actually going, well, how can we reach new people, or how can we engage better with you younger people within the church who we just want to help you with your discipleship. And allowing them to get involved can be a great way, without giving them full power to the Facebook page, but actually allows them to create something. I want to say keep it short and sweet, but at the same time, don't stress about having to really strip down something that can take a minute and actually losing a lot of the essence. Don't stress about it having to be longer, but equally don't stress, it's too long if you're on like a minute or a minute 30. That's absolutely fine. But short and sweet can be just helpful if you're just getting started.
Yeah. And then don't forget about engaging with people. It's something we talk about with the live stream as well, that it's not just a case of put it out there and then forget about it, but engage with people, reply to comments, look for where people are engaging with you and then engage back, and just build that community there.
Yeah. So I would really like to encourage you to have a think about using vertical videos, and if you decide that it is worth it for you and your church, then, try it out, give it a go. We'd love to hear how you get on with using vertical videos. Do tag us in anything. And we look forward to changing social media and online videos for the kingdom.
Gourds and Pomegranates is brought to you by Joe Gallant and Hannah Fleming Hill. You can find episode transcripts and contact the show via gppodcast.uk.